People are doing well? Doing good. Great to hear that, Priyanka. Let's see. Rahul's doing well. Anjali's doing well. Harsh is doing great. Arjun is doing good. Alan is doing very well. Anurag is doing good. And Priyanka is doing good. Great, 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 great. Lovely to hear from everybody. Now, without delaying this further, let me just share my screen. But before I share my screen, I just have a very, very short introduction / request. All right. If you plan to watch this on YouTube at a later point in time, here are some quick tips. All right. At some point in the near future, or probably even the distant future, we will actually go through this entire video and we will extract all the major questions that were asked. And we will make a list of those questions. All right. And if you look at the video below, there is this thing that says show more details. So if you click on it, you can actually see the entire details for the video. At the time this video is being recorded, which is right now, there may not be much, but we actually make it a practice to go and update that at a later point in time after the video is over. All right. Of course, this depends on when we get the bandwidth to do this. So we make a list of questions, and associated with each question, there is a timestamp. So if you click on that timestamp, you should be able to skip to that part of the video where that question is being answered. All right. So this is a general efficiency tip for you. In case you're watching this at a later point in time, and there are certain aspects of this video that you may find relevant to you and other aspects which you may find are not that relevant. So the efficiency tip is click on the timestamp, go to that particular question, see what answer we've given to that, and that will help you save some time, right? So that is my first tip. The second thing is a request, all right? This has something to do with how YouTube as a whole works. We actually put in a lot of effort into this video. So it's not just the time that I'm spending here speaking to you all, it's also the time that we spend in research before we get into this video. There's a lot of effort in, so all the emails that you get, all of these are scheduled by a team, and it takes them a good 1 to 2 hours to just make sure that it's all coordinated and happening properly. There's a post-processing requirement that we do, so we put in a little bit of effort. We do it because we believe that it will benefit a larger population. But at this point in time, it is not reaching a large population, right? If you look at our channel, as of, let's say, the 24th of August, we have roughly about 100 subscribers or so, and every video gets around 120 or 130 views. And YouTube counts this as a view, even if you just open the video and you close it, all right? It seems like for the kind of effort that we are putting in, not enough people are benefiting from it. And of course, there's a personal interest here as well. We want to be seen and heard by a lot of highly talented candidates so that they can reach out to us and, we can work with them, we can help them, and, they contribute to our business as well. So what can you do about it, right? When you like the video, YouTube takes that as a vote for the video, and YouTube actually ends up recommending it to somebody who's not even associated with August Academy at this point in time. So that person doesn't have to be associated with you. That person doesn't have to be associated with August Academy. This could be someone sitting in, let's say, Japan, searching for Tepper videos, right? So if you just press that like button, that's one more vote, and somebody searching for Tepper in Japan is going to be recommended the same video. So that's one way in which you can help us. Definitely, I'm very, very sure that all of you, are preparing for GMAT together, are preparing for the applications together. Maybe you're not working with us directly, but if you still like the way we approach things, if you think that we are doing a sincere job of helping you out, maybe you can recommend us to your friends, right? So you can subscribe, and you can also share it with your friends as well. Yeah, Harsh, thanks for that. Thank you so much. And finally, the idea here is, like, share, subscribe, right? That's going to help us a lot, and it will allow other people also to get access to our content. So hopefully it's a win-win situation. With that request, what I would like to do is just a very short introduction. My name is Karthik. I'm the founder and chief coach at HKUST Academy. We've been in business since 2013. I am an alumnus of IIT Madras and Stanford, and I've been working with students who are looking to get into the top MBA programs since 2013. So ever since HKUST Academy started. We have been very fortunate. We've had the opportunity of working with some very talented candidates. We've also helped them with their essays and their applications, and we've also provided good counsel. So if you look at the results, we've had people studying in the top 5 schools in every geography out there. So we have people at Harvard, we have people at Booth, we have people at Kellogg, MIT. This is as far as the US goes, right? And obviously every university that's ranked lower than that. In Canada, Rotman, Ivy, Shoe Lake, Queens, Sauder, all the top 5 colleges. Within Europe, INSEAD, London Business School, Oxford, Cambridge, HEC, IE, ISA, and ISADE. ISB, most definitely in India. IIM Ahmedabad and Bangalore for the executive programs, NUS, NTU, and HKUST, right? So we've had a very good track record so far, but we are of the opinion that what has happened in the past stays in the past, and we look forward to the future, and hopefully we will get to repeat these results this year and in the year to come, right? So that's the approach with which we are taking this forward. Hopefully we can collaborate with some of you and help you realize your dreams as well. Thank you for being patient. I'm going to share my screen right now. Yes. So can people see me? See my screen rather? Just give me a thumbs up. A couple of thumbs ups should do. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Anurag. Thank you, Sharad. So here's what's going to happen. People can type into the chat window. I mean, is Tepper a school that is of interest to people? What kind of career goals do you have? Why don't you take a stab at it? So Tepper is interesting to Saloni, Suhas, Sharad. So Rahul is looking for a tech MBA. Okay, great. Priyanka wants to get into technical product management. Great. All right. Sharad is also looking to get into product management. Saloni is also looking to get into tech MBA product management. Alan is looking to get into a product marketing manager or product manager. Okay, fantastic. Great, guys. Thanks for the feedback. And that is one of the career goals that Tepper is very famous for offering, right? So first of all, we have to recognize that Tepper is associated with Carnegie Mellon University. Tepper is the business school associated with Carnegie Mellon University, and Carnegie Mellon University, depending on which ranking you look at, their School of Computer Science is ranked in the top 5. All right. They have an amazing program in artificial intelligence and robotics, data analytics, you name it. And the latest in technology is offered by Carnegie Mellon. And given that this is the business school associated with a university that has a computer science school of that kind of pedigree, you would naturally expect that Tepper offers some of the best opportunities in technology career management. Tepper is known for its focus on analytics-based education, right? So data-backed management, or rather data-driven management. Analytics-driven management. So this would be Tepper's USP. So USP is short for unique selling proposition, right? So Tepper is known for its data-driven approach to making management-related decisions, business decisions. And if that aligns with the way you think about business problems, then right away there is a match. But it's not just about technology, right? Tepper is also a great school for operations. And in general, Tepper is a great general management school. There's people who get into Tepper and then get out with a career in consulting, right? Or finance. So yeah, primarily you should be looking at Tepper if you are looking for technology careers. secondarily maybe operations careers, but Tepper is also a great school for getting into general management, consulting, and finance. So it is one of the best general management programs out there as well, naturally ranked in the top 20. Now, one thing to note about Tepper is that so far, Tepper has been looking at candidates with reasonably high GMATs. So I would say about 730, 740 plus, okay? That's not the rule. I personally had one candidate with a 700 get in about 2-3 years ago. Very, very high, what should I say, high capability candidate. This person was a techie, but a techie with experience in what's called ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. And this person had very deep and intimate engagement with a Midwestern SME, a small and medium enterprise, right? So not only was this person bringing about valuable background in technology and enterprise resource planning, this person also had excellent knowledge of a small enterprise. And by the way, a small enterprise in the US is roughly equivalent to a mid-cap listed stock in India, all right? So a small enterprise may still have like $100 million in turnover. And this was spread across 3 continents as well. So this person had very, very intimate knowledge of that business, and it was a gentleman. He was able to talk about the client business as well, right? So because of this, he did a great job on the interview as well, and he was selected. But normally, Tepper looks for candidates with slightly higher GMATs. This is just something for you to know. Now, with regards to deadlines, right? Deadlines are more or less standard and similar to the kind of deadlines other schools have. You have 3 rounds for full-time MBAs. There's a 4th round for someone who's looking for a part-time MBA. If you're an international candidate, definitely apply before the 5th of January deadline, all right? So that's there. In terms of requirements, right? Tepper is different from the other schools in the sense they are actually okay with it if your resume goes over onto the 2nd page. Don't take that as a recommendation that your resume has to go into the 2nd page. It's always good to have a 1-page resume, but if there's something that you cannot fit, then so be it. It's okay. But this is also an advantage, right? Because if you look at it, other schools have the requirement that your resume have a font size of 10 or higher, whereas Tepper requires you to submit a resume with a font size of 12 or higher. So obviously, if the font size is 20% higher, you would naturally expect that the resume you prepared for other schools, if you just change the font size from 10 to 12, it's going to go into the 2nd page. So it works out. Unofficial transcripts, okay for now. There are specific requirements with regards to what you need to submit. So please read through it line by line and ensure that you're submitting it in the manner that they ask for. We just discussed test scores, GRE, GMAT, both applicable. Now, the question here is, if you are applying with a GRE or GMAT, traditionally they've looked for very high scores, all right? Tepper is one of the programs that offers a test waiver, but you need to apply and then you need to give them good justifications as to why you should be considered even with a waiver. There's no guarantee that the waiver would be provided, but you may assume that if you have a good GPA in high school, if you're working in an area which is reasonably analytically intensive, and if you have at least 4 to 5 years of work experience, it should be possible for them to grant you a waiver. What happens after the waiver, I've shared my thoughts on that already. I am not in favor of people requesting a waiver when they can actually take the test. One required LOR, there's just 2 essays really, or maybe 3. We'll look at that very shortly. And interviews are by invitation only, right? That said, let's move into the essays. So there's one question about the goals, right? They ask you about your goal. So it's not really listed as an essay. If you open up the application, somewhere in the middle of the application, there's going to be this one question. It says, okay, tell us about your goals. What is your plan B? Why do you want an MBA? I've not opened up the application myself, but you can assume that these are some of the questions that have been asked. So talk about your plan A, pick from any legitimate post-MBA career path. ensure that you have the right background for success in that role. So I saw that a lot of people were looking for roles in technology product management, for example. Okay. What is the right background for success in that role? Maybe you want to be a software engineer at this point. Even if you're not a software engineer, can you demonstrate that you are somebody who can work with multifunctional teams and have intense, or rather very strong, technology aptitude? Can you demonstrate that? Then it's okay for you to say you want to become a technology product manager, right? Likewise, why are you interested in this? So this is pretty much the first part of the goals essay, right? If you still have space and if they ask you for it, you may talk about your long-term goals as well. And likewise, it's also important and necessary for you to talk about your plan B, because they are asking you for it, right? So this is the goals essay. I'm not very sure about the word counts, because the word counts may be published only inside the application, and I've not made a dummy application. So I don't know what's inside the application, right? Which brings us to the main question, all right? The Tepper community is dynamic and unique. Each community member's individual journey has shaped them into classmates who are collaborative, supportive, and inclusive. So these are the three keywords, right? There's collaborative, there's supportive, which is more or less the same thing, and inclusive is also related. I mean, these are three different words, but these are three very related words, right? And then the question actually forgets about all this. It moves into a different direction, and it says, describe how you have overcome adversity during your journey. What did you learn about yourself, and how has that shaped who you are? All right. I'm going to stop share for just a little bit, and I'm going to be sharing a link to a file. All right. Just bear with me for a second. All right. Let's keep the community engaged. So I'm going to share my screen. So I'm going to do an exercise very similar to what we did for Duke. All right. I want you guys to type in maybe 2 or 3 sentences an adversity that you faced. Okay. It's going to be anonymous. So we don't know whose adversity it is. And it need not even be the same adversity that you write about in the essay. This is just something for discussion's sake. All right. So, just type in an adversity that you faced, just 2 or 3 sentences, and then we'll discuss as a group what kind of lessons are evident from that kind of adversity. All right. So here's what I want you to do. 2 sentences, talk about the adversity. 2 sentences, what did you learn? Right. Now I'm going to share this, and I know I had a problem with this the last time as well. I'm going to copy the link. How do I do this? Does anyone know how I can share it with the link sharing option? Okay, I'm going to try to see if I can paste it in the chat window. Please see if you can access this. Sorry, I think it went as a private message to somebody. Yeah, can people access this? Okay. Some folks can access it and some cannot. All right. I am going to see what to do. Okay. Get link. All right. And instead of restricted, I'm going to say anyone with a link. And then I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to say done. And I'm going to paste this. Okay, again, I think I send this to an individual instead of to the group. Yeah, can people access this now? Fantastic. Okay, this is anonymous. As you can see, there's all these people there. Anonymous grizzly, anonymous kiwi, anonymous crow, anonymous some new animal, anonymous fox, and 9 total viewers, right? So nobody's going to know who's writing what. I just need one example in order for me to elaborate on this, right? So if somebody wants to talk about their journey, please do so. I will probably give you a couple of minutes. Is that all right? Let me get started, right? I mean, this is Karthik. What kind of unable to edit? All right, let me try editing. Let's get link. Anyone? Okay, got it. Yeah. Can people edit now? Can somebody just try typing something? Okay, so just share whatever you can. And meanwhile, I'm just going to, share below that. What kind of adversity have I faced? Faced a lot of adversities, definitely, but I'm just trying to think of what I can share. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So when I was doing a PhD, right? 2 weeks before my defense, I lost, my hard drive crashed. I lost all my data. 4 to 5 years of hard work, panic, and yeah, I mean, you kind of get the picture, right? So what did I learn? I mean, obviously the first thing is to always have backups, but approach the situation calmly. Try to respond objectively rather than emotionally. Have a good support system in place, people to back you up, and yeah, persevere. So this is basically it, right? And what did I do? Luckily, I was able to identify a computer expert in my network who worked with me to recover the data. Some friends helped me put together whatever was missing, and we made it work. Thanks to my team. All right. So this is one of the adversities. This is definitely not the only adversity I faced in life, but this is one of the adversities that I faced. What did I learn about myself, right? I mean, first of all, what I did was stupid, right? So that is something I need to stop doing. I need to have backup systems in place. I need to have some redundancies in place, right? So that's something that I identified. But in addition to that, this was about a week or two before my defense, right? I mean, it was really intense. Suddenly I was like this deer in headlights. I stopped thinking and I had no idea what was happening, and my brain just shut down, right? Not very optimal. But I think this was where I was very fortunate to have a very good support system. My family, my friends, my advisors, my colleagues in the lab. So all of them were very supportive. And then they said, hey, you know what, we are going to get past this. So the fact that there were people around me to encourage me to get out of that situation, I think that was the first thing. And then I started looking at it very objectively. And that's a very important lesson as well. Whenever you're faced with adversity, you can either deny that that is happening to you, or you can react very emotionally and say, hey, why is this happening to me? Or you can get past all this and say, okay, fine, you know what, this happened. Now what am I going to do about this, right? And then that's when we figured, okay, data lost is not data lost forever. In today's day and age, there are people who are actually able to recover data from crashed hard drives. So we were able to identify some person, and then the entire hard drive couldn't be recovered. Parts of it was still missing, but with whatever we recovered, which was about 70-80%, we were able to put everything together, and then we made it work. So there's a little bit of a teamwork element also. Even though this was my defense, there was a team behind my defense, right? Now, Tepper asks you to talk about how you've overcome adversity throughout your journey. So presumably they're not looking for like this one example of this very strong adversity that you've overcome, but they're asking you, okay, fine. Maybe when you were in high school, there was something that happened to you. What did you learn from there? Maybe when you were in college, something else happened. What did you learn from there? When you started working, something else happened. What did you learn from there? So they are asking you to talk about the journey. Now, because the paragraph, the context that they've said uses words like collaborative and supportive and inclusive, if at all it is possible, talk about how you are a collaborative or a supportive or an inclusive player. It is not 100% necessary because that is not part of the question. It is only part of the context. But if it is possible, then go for it, right? All right. That said, let's look at some of the stories that have been shared. Thank you all for sharing this. 2013, I broke my hand on 28th March, which was just 1 week before the JEE mains exam. I can imagine that would be, very similar to the story that I've shared, right? I mean, it's a very important event in your educational career. And the fact that you may not realize it, that's going to be a challenge. Okay, I think you're still writing, so I'm going to get back to you. Somebody else had a story. When I moved to a new city after class 10 to prepare for my engineering entrance exams, I learned to work in collaboration with people, and the brainstorming leads to better and quicker solutions. Brilliant. Empathy, since there were many like me facing the same problems. Brilliant again. About myself, learned that I was a natural problem solver and focused on getting to solutions rather than ruminating on the problem endlessly. Moreover, I'm self-aware and constant pursuit of improvement. All right. So obviously, this is a short paragraph. So at the level, so let's see, this is how many words? About 82 words, whereas they've given you about 500 words, right? What kind of comments would I have on this, right? I would ask you to actually give me specifics on all of this. The adversity itself is acceptable to start. Obviously, if you have something stronger than this, please present something stronger than this. The first thing is explain to me why this was an adversity. Okay. So why was this an adversity? Or what challenge did you face? All right. Then give specific examples. Okay. How did you learn that you are a problem solver? What kind of problems were you required to solve? how did that help you in life, right? Uh, did that become your natural strength or expertise? So you can see I've just put down some comments here. Hopefully you can see my comments as well. What about self-awareness? What do you mean by that? How has your self-awareness helped you and your team? So this is how I would look at it, right? And let's move on to the next one. I realized towards the end of UG that I did not like my major, was not very good at it. Okay. Was unsure of the career path I would take while everyone else was landing jobs. Okay. Interned at a place in a role that involved a passion, which is writing. Great. Converted into a full-time job and made it my career. Okay. So this is great as an adversity that fits into that particular phase of your life. Okay. So what does it communicate? It communicates that you are someone who's able to persevere and change directions very successfully. So more points to you on that. And presumably, what did you learn from this? Explore all possible options on the table. That is great, right? Because a lot of us, we study engineering. I mean, there's a common joke which says in India, you study engineering and then you decide what you want to do, right? And then there's a lot of people who are wedded to their careers simply because they studied that and they've put in like 4 years or 5 years. It becomes very difficult for them to change it the more time they invest in it, right? So this is somebody who is actually willing to discard all of that simply because they realize that they are not interested in what they're doing and they would rather spend time focusing on something that they enjoy and like rather than spend the rest of their life doing something that they do not enjoy. So that is the first lesson that you would have learned, and that is also the insight I get about your personality. So that's great. Take the advice of mentors, people who've been there and done that. So that's good as well. So if you look at people, right? Whenever somebody is being interviewed for a position or somebody is being considered for a job, it is one of the traits that are attractive, in addition to the fact that you may be a very efficient and talented person. It is also interesting if you are a coachable person. What does it mean to be coachable? Coachable means if I give you advice, you will actually listen to it. You will trust me and you will listen to it. And then you have the judgment to understand when it is helping you and when it is not helping you. So that is a coachable person. There are some people who are not coachable, which means they may be driven by their egos. It's like, who are you to give me advice? Why are you telling me what to do? Right. So when you say something along the lines of you took the advice of mentors, it gives me the idea, the insight that you are a coachable person, and that's actually more power to you. Identify your strengths and build on them. So this may be similar to what the other person said, which is the other person said they were self-aware and in constant pursuit of improvement. I asked for specifics, and this is how you talk about specifics. Identified my strengths. You can even actually be more specific than that. What kind of strengths did you identify, and how did you build on them? Right. So that's how you write a very specific essay. The more specific it is, the more unique to you it is. Right. So that's good. Someone else has this story where they're talking about how their mother had to undergo major surgery when I was in 12th, which meant putting studies on hold and giving time at home, helping my dad and younger sister, helping me understand the value of family and the importance of maintaining composure through hardships. I think this is also something that is very challenging. So one of the things that I want you guys to carry home with you is what is an adversity for you may not be an adversity for me. And what is an adversity for me may not be an adversity for you. All right. There are some challenges that are considered to be universally bad for everybody. People. What is happening in Afghanistan right now? I think the entire world will not disagree that it is a big adversity. All right. Whereas there are certain instances which some of us have a stronger capability of handling, whereas others don't have the strength to handle it. All right. I just see Harsh popping up on my screen. He's a mountaineer, right? I mean, he's been to Mount Everest. In fact, I think he was even battling COVID at that time. To a lot of us, climbing a much smaller mountain is probably going to be a huge bit of adversity. For Harsh, it's probably like another day in the park sort of thing, right? So that's what I mean. What is adversity for one person may not be an adversity for another, but it is necessary for you to take me into your worldview and actually explain to me why it was an adversity for you. Then I will understand. All right. If it is universally applicable, you don't have to explain anything. If it is not universally applicable, then you have to tell me why at that particular time this was considered to be an adversity for you. Definitely focus on what you learned from it. And if at all possible, talk about the collaborative, supportive, and inclusive aspects as well, though it is just context, it is not 100% necessary. Okay, so what's an ideal essay going to look like? An ideal essay will probably cover about 2 to 3 different stages of life. All right. An ideal essay will probably cover 2 to 3 stages of life. Perhaps childhood or teenage, college, early working years, and the present. You may want to talk about different adversities. That you faced through your journey. I think my computer just froze up. Yeah, got it. For each, talk about what you learned. Besides resilience and persistence and perseverance, which are all fundamental to overcoming adversity. All right, I think that is what I have to share on this topic. Shall we get back? How many examples of adversity is ideal for this word limit? Yeah, I just said 2 to 3 examples should be good. Yeah, with that, I think I'm going to stop share and maybe we'll get back to chat. So let me actually get, is there anything else in the requirements that I need to cover? Let me just see. Yeah, there is the optional essay. And let's just share screen for just a little bit more. So Tepper actually asks for an optional essay. So the standard thing is if you have a work gap, if your recommenders are not the standard current direct supervisor, but somebody else, if you have questionable academic performance while in college, and finally, if this is a reapplication for you. So use the optional essay to explain any of these. If any of these don't apply, then the optional essay really is optional. You don't have to spend time talking about it. You can use that time and space for something a little bit more productive, right? I always recommend that people do this. Once you're done with the essay, give it to somebody you trust, and ask them 2 questions. First of all, ask them if it sounds like you, because that is the measure of authenticity and your personal voice. Secondly, just give them the essay. All right. Don't tell them what question you're trying to answer. And then after they've read the essay, ask them, okay, what am I talking about? What do you think the question is? And if they say something which is very related to the actual question, then you can assume that you've answered it properly. But sometimes what happens is people just copy paste an essay from one college and put it in another college for a different question, and it just doesn't fit. And that's always awkward. All right. So this is a test to see if you're actually answering the right question. And if you're not, then you need to consider restructuring your response a little bit. Okay. All right. I'm open for Q&A now. If somebody has any questions, please feel free to share it through the chat window, or you can ask me as well. So Alan has a question. Would the optional essay have to be filled if my recommender is my previous supervisor less than a year ago? I would still recommend that you write about 2 or 3 sentences, and you may want to talk about why you've chosen your previous supervisor instead of your current supervisor. Just 2 or 3 sentences, nothing more. Please elaborate more on the optional essay in case of reapplicants. Okay, let's see. Sharing my screen once more. So let's look at the reapplication, right? What are the things that could have changed? Fundamentally, your GRE or GMAT could have changed. So that's one thing you may want to talk about. Maybe you change jobs, new responsibilities. So change jobs, that could be another thing that you talked about. Then same job, new responsibilities, promotion. And this would mean leadership, more leadership at work, client-facing roles, contribution to project management, contribution to some strategic initiative at the company. So these would be if you're in the same job, but you've got more responsibilities. Then you may want to talk about extracurriculars. Anything new or reinforced? What do I mean by reinforced? There's a good number of people who start working with a nonprofit in August and apply in December. Okay, nothing wrong with that. You obviously contributed 5 months of your life to the nonprofit and to a particularly noteworthy cause. And I think at the end of the day, you will still be recognized for it. Okay, but also it's also evident that you only started doing it because you were applying to business school, right? So this is what happens in the first year of application. But when you do it in the second year of application, obviously you would have spent not 5 months, but 17 months, right? And that's considerable tenure at any point in time. And naturally, what happens when you spend some time, that amount of time with anybody, is you get absorbed into leadership initiatives, all right? What do I mean by that? So when somebody works for Make a Difference, or there's Robin Hood Army and all that, typically in the first year, you would just be contributing time. Okay, I went to 5 restaurants, I collected food and I gave it to homeless people. Or I taught 5 underprivileged children maths and physics for 2 hours a weekend, and I did this for 10 weekends, right? That's typically what you would have to report after about 4 to 5 months with that nonprofit. But when you spend a further 12 months, you could become the head of a particular zone within the city. So you could be responsible for managing about 20 different volunteers. And when you're managing 20 volunteers, suddenly it's not just about teaching 5 kids, it's about teaching 500 kids. It's not about literally getting in and teaching the kids by spending time, but it's about looking at lesson plans. It's looking at pedagogy. It's about looking at technology tools. It's about actually thinking at a higher level about how you can contribute rather than just directly contributing your time. So some of these could have changed from last year to this year. Think about it, all right? So this could be in community. I'm also somebody who wants people to be proud of their hobbies. So, if you've traveled, of course, this is a joke over the last year, nobody's traveled, but, if you've traveled, hobbies, people have picked up hobbies, right? People have picked up fitness, people have picked up musical instruments. So there's a lot of hobbies, creative hobbies that people have picked up. So that's something that you can talk about. And finally, goal clarity. Not finally, this is number 5, goal clarity. If your goals have changed, or if you have stronger reasons for why you want to do the same thing you want to do. Okay. Why? If your goals are the same, then how are you clearer about your goals plus YMB? So something about that would be useful. And finally, some self-awareness, which is basically a restatement of why business is a good career path for you and why and how, what are your strengths, weaknesses, what do you need to develop further? So that would be your self-awareness part. So if you can put all of these together, then I think you would have a great reapplication essay. I'm going to add Toastmasters to this. I was a Toastmaster. I'm somewhat fond of that organization. And I realized that a lot of my candidates also are members of Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is a great organization for improving your communication skills, especially about 25 to 30% of the people that I work with. They really need to work on their communication skills, right? And I think that is also representative of the broader population out there. So if you find that you are not able to make a coherent speech, which will actually show up at the interview stage, then it is better to start right away and join Toastmasters. Maybe present about 2 or 3 speeches and you'll get community feedback, and that will help you become a better communicator, right? Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And I'm going to stop share at this point. I'm going to pick some questions from the chat window, all right? Can one story be enough if you show your learning adversity essay? If you can demonstrate adequate learning from just that one story, I think that should be sufficient. The only concern for me is that they've talked about how have you overcome adversities in plural through your journey, which implies childhood to now. As a result, I am more inclined to, looking at 2 or 3 different stages of your life. But, it's not a rule. As what is more important is for you to demonstrate your learning. So if you can bring that out in one story, go for it. A 720 score, would that give a shot in R1 or work on increasing the score and trying in R2? So typically, except for that one candidate who got in with a 700, I think we've had people succeeding at Tepper only if they had a 740 plus, maybe even a 750 plus. So that's the data. You may want to check GMAT Club as well and filter last year's applicants. So look at the people from India who've applied and see what kind of GMAT scores they had when they succeeded. You will probably see that 750, 760 seems to be the norm. If you have an exceptional profile, 720 may be okay. But other than that, I would recommend that you probably increase your score a little bit. As an international applicant, my chances for scholarship dropped drastically from R1 to R2. So usually R1 to R2, the chances of admission and chances of getting a scholarship, the difference is marginal. This year, I'm not 100% sure because we are getting a lot of traffic. We did get a lot of traffic for R1. It's kind of dropped a little bit, and now people are starting to approach us for round 2. We are open for round 2, by the way. So if you are interested in round 2 applications, please reach out. And it's going to take us about 7 to 10 days to set up an appointment, only because most of our time goes with our R1 candidates, and it is very critical for them. It's a very critical time. But we are interested in signing up people for R2. We have space for R2. Please reach out to us as well. Now, to answer your question, yes, usually R1 and R2, no major chances, no major differences. This year, R1 seemed to be very competitive. So R2 may not be that easy as compared to previous years. But this year is not as competitive as last year, and even last year we had very good results in R2, right? Last year I had somebody with a 730 get into Tuck and Ross in round 2, right? So, and this is something that usually never happens. So, you know, schools are somewhat good at waiting for the second round of candidates. So you may assume that the chances will be slightly lower, but not very, very low. Okay. Does Tepper also look at high GPA besides high GMAT? I've actually not seen any school look at GPA that much, especially from India. I've had a high 5-pointer from an NIT get into Ross. Okay, when I say a high 5-pointer, I mean like a 5.9 or something. All right, that's not a good GPA. That's a bad GPA, right? I think primarily, but this candidate had a very high GMAT score. All right. So primarily, the idea here is they may not be very intimately familiar with the Indian grading system. So that's number one. And I know that there are some universities which are known to be very relaxed graders, and there are some universities which are very strict graders, right? So they don't know which university is which, right? So it's a little difficult for them to understand that. Whereas the GMAT is more reliable and it's a common platform for everybody, right? So definitely the GMAT is given a lot more importance, but bad GPAs, a huge history of backlogs, I think all of that is going to be backfiring on you, all right? So, you know, if you have a 3-point or a 4-point thing, probably you shouldn't be considering a top 20, top 25 program. But as long as you can consider that you've passed and you've done an above average job, I think that should be okay. How can we use the optional essay space to gain brownie points despite the fact that there is no employment gap or similar situation in my journey? First of all, employment gap, similar situation, that's not brownie point. You know, that's just explaining an unfortunate circumstance that you had to go through. That's the only thing you need to explain. If you don't have a gap, if you don't have to explain your GPA, if you're not a reapplicant, if you have your current direct supervisor recommending you, then there's actually nothing much for you to report. If you still want to write about something, then maybe you can talk about some of the achievements that you've had in life. It's completely optional, but it's entirely up to you. What if a recommender missed to submit recommendation by R1 deadline? Will it be considered an R2? I don't want to encourage people to submit their recommendations late or their applications late. But usually it's okay for recommenders to slip by a day or two, all right? Now, this is not set in stone. Please do not come back to me and say, hey, Karthik, you said this, and because of that, I said it was okay to my recommender if he submits or if she submits a day or two late, okay? The school may actually end up reversing their decision this year if, for example, they had a lot of applications, all right? But very, very unofficially, it's okay to be 1 or 2 days late. But if it's about a week or 10 days late, then definitely you're moving to the next round, unless it's rolling admissions. Okay. Why for some schools there are filters such as early R1 and R2 while creating applications? I think it's just a question of IT management. What if I choose early but submit application in R1? Shouldn't matter too much. You may want to double check with the college and ensure that they changes in the IT system. That's about it. But the college is the final word on this. All right, don't take my word for this. If the recommender is not willing, then can we exclude? Will it have a negative impact on application? I'm not sure what that means. I'm assuming you have filled out the name of somebody and that person is not willing to give you a recommendation. So you want to choose somebody else. I'm sure such circumstances happen very commonly. So I don't think that will have a negative impact on your application. No space in the Tepper application to directly address extracurriculars like nonprofit leadership. So hopefully you will talk about it in your resume. And if there is actually no other space, then talk about it in the optional. Goals, what about career switch situations? How does one connect past experience with future aspirations? So give me a strong motivation for why you want to switch. And that said, give me some idea that you have a good set of transferable experiences that you can carry over to the new job, right? So if you're a software engineer who's telling me you want to get into consulting, show me that you have business awareness, show me that you're a great problem solver, show me that you're great with clients, and I will believe you when you say you want to work in consulting, right? Have a high GMAT as well, because first of all, Tepper requires you to have a high GMAT, but more than that, McKinsey, Boston, Bain also require high GMATs. If the first LOR is from a current direct supervisor, what is the best option for the second LOR? You can get it from a previous supervisor, especially if that person is from a different company. You may want to get it from a client as well. Will the LOR from a customer client be sufficient as the only LOR? Perhaps not. Unless you have a very strong reason for why you cannot get it from your current supervisor. If you can get it from a previous supervisor, then that would be the second preference. The customer client would only be the third preference. Okay. So private message, I'm planning to apply in round 2 at the start of top 20, at the top 20 business schools. I intend to start preparing for GMAT and dedicate myself full time for the next 70 days. How do you recommend preparing for it? Any applications, courses, mocks, private tutors? I'm going to give my best shot. Okay, the GMAT journey works as such. First, you take a mock exam so that you can benchmark your current level. So if you look at it, there's Magoosh, there's eGMAT, there's GMAT Wiz, there is Manhattan Prep, and I'm sure there's other test prep companies in your neighborhood, wherever you are. So all of them will provide you with some sort of test material, okay? If you buy a Kaplan book or a Manhattan book, they will give you access to about 5 or 6 tests online as well. So take a practice exam, figure out what score level you are at, look at your sub scores across the various question types and figure out where you need to improve. And based on that, you make a preparation plan. It's like a fitness plan, right? So, okay, fine. My sentence correction is really weak, which means I have to focus more on that. My reading comprehension is very good, which means I don't have to spend a lot of time. So when I was preparing for the GMAT, right? It's going to be a little boasting here, but please allow me that. I was very good at math, okay? So I actually did not prepare for math at all. I decided that I would only study for 6 weeks because I had been postponing my GMAT for a year or two. And I figured, hey, you know what? If I keep doing this, I'm not going to take the test ever, all right? So I still remember it was just after the Pongal holidays were over in Chennai and Bangalore. I was working in Bangalore at that time. So that's roughly around the 17th of January, all right? So I figured, hey, you know what? Let's book the date. So I booked a date for March the 2nd, which is when I took the exam. So Jan 17 to March 2 is about 6 weeks, all right? So I came back to Bangalore from Chennai. I took the GMAT mock. I scored some score. I don't remember what it was. I decided that I wouldn't prepare for math because I was good at it. So essentially that left me with sentence correction, which was not very great for me. Critical reasoning, which was also not very great for me. RC, which I thought I was good at, but I was not very good at. I figured that out when I was looking at GMAT RC, right? So essentially every day after coming back from work, I would, cycle. So 6 days a week, right? So 2 days would be SC, 2 days would be CR, 2 days would be RC. So that was it. I used the GMAT, official GMAT guide. I used Manhattan Prep and I used Kaplan as well. Every week, very religiously, on both the Saturday and the Sunday, I would take an exam, and that was my math prep. All right. So I took about 5 tests from Kaplan, I took about 6 tests from Manhattan, and I took about 2 tests from the official GMAT. So that would be a total of 13 tests. And I told you that this was a 6-week prep program that I had planned for myself, right? And yeah, I mean, it worked out, and I lucked out, and I got a good score. But I think what I did very well was I understood where I needed to concentrate my efforts. I set a deadline for myself. And finally, I stuck to my plan very, very religiously. I mean, for those 6 weeks, I actually did not see a movie, or I did not see TV, or, I was like super focused on that. I don't know if I can repeat that at this point in time, but yeah, I mean, at that time it worked out. Any disadvantage of applying with the GRE? No, absolutely not. Does a low IR score matter at Tepper? There is no evidence that a low IR score matters anywhere at this point. AWA perhaps matters a little bit, but even that, there is no evidence that it matters a lot. Okay. So as much as possible, don't compromise on your IR and AWA at the expense of your verbal and quant. But if it happens and it's not a great score, then so be it. What is next Tuesday's topic? So I think it'll be the Tuesday after next. So usually we've been doing this at a cadence of once every 2 weeks, with the exception of last week when we had a guest come in. So if you look at it, last week we had a separate landing page, and then the entire entry and intake system was different for last week's webinar. Whereas this is the same intake that we use for our bi-weekly session. So the next one will probably be somewhere in mid-September. Not sure yet. In fact, that may also be a very busy time for us. So we'll probably get back about 4 or 5 days before. A very slight chance that if it is really, really difficult for us, we may not have it in mid-September, but we'll have it towards the end of September instead. But again, we'll keep in touch with you about that. All right. All right, folks. I think that's all the questions that are there on the chat window. And again, coming back to my request to everyone, please like, share, and subscribe. It matters a lot to us. And if you are watching this video at a much, much later point in time, click on show details. Hopefully by then we would have processed all the major questions, especially the questions that were discussed during the last half an hour or so. And we will be listing out all the questions in the show notes, which you will see if you click on show more details. There will also be a timestamp. Click on the timestamp so that you can skip to that part. So Rahul has a question: where can we find the pricing plans to work with August Academy for the application? Please send me a short note. Rahul, I have a spreadsheet. I will forward you the spreadsheet, and I'll also forward you some videos about how we work with our candidates. And then if you want more clarity, we can set up a call. We'll charge for the call because we are finding it a little difficult to set up one-on-ones with everyone. We charge a very small amount, but we subtract that amount when somebody signs up for the counseling package, right? So this is just to ensure that we are able to prioritize, and we also want to ensure that the candidate has some intention to work on an engagement with us. But I can definitely forward you the pricing details. But just to recall, for a 3-school package, we charge 195 plus GST, so that comes to around 230. And for a 5-school package, we charge 250 plus GST, that comes to about 295. The 5-school package includes interview prep as well. The 3-school package doesn't include interview prep by default, but it does include shortlisting. Okay, so shortlisting is included in all of our packages. Obviously, the essay, LOR, and resume help is included in all of our packages. Interview prep is included in the 5-school package. Okay, and yeah, please send me an email, Rahul, and I will forward you the details. All right. Okay, great. Thank you all. Great session today, and hopefully it was helpful. All the best with your applications. Bye.